What's going on, guys? Welcome back for episode 25 of Divine Journey 2. We're going to start out this episode by trying to finish out chapter 17. So first we're going to need to get our hands on some electrotine. To do that, we're going to need to perform the Mark of the Fallen Tower ritual. To do that, we're going to need at least 100 ritual stones and 1 master ritual stone. And what this ritual does is it's going to summon a fallen meteor. So we're going to come a little ways away from our base and fill out this ritual. And before we activate this thing, we're also going to want to come up a little ways and build out a little obsidian platform so that it doesn't destroy the ritual stones themselves. Hopefully that'll be big enough. And now all we should have to do is activate this ritual, but it's going to require 1,000,000 LP in our network. So I'm going to wait for that to build up. And I almost missed this, but we actually do need to craft up a potency core to drop on the master ritual stone. But that's a pretty easy craft for us now since we have all of this automated. Alright, we just hit the threshold. So let's throw our potency core on here. Oh, my magnet's on. Throw it on and activate. Let's see, when's our meteor going to come down? Oh, ho, ho, we got electrotine now, baby. And that gave us 47 electrotine, so we're going to want to figure out a really good way to process this. But before I forget, let's go ahead and craft up the handy bag we tried to make at the end of the last episode. Oh, there it is. So basically the way this works is when it's in our inventory, it gives us another inventory above it. And actually, we get 3 slots of 9 times 4. And so we're going to need to put some memory cards in here for these. There's a few different options we have for memory cards. And basically what this does is it alters the amount of items that one slot can store. So by default, you would use a memory card 6 and that would store 64 like any regular inventory slot. But you could go all the way up to a memory card 12 and store 4,096 items in each slot. But that seems a little bit excessive. I think we'll probably go for some memory card tier 8s, which will store 256. So let's go ahead and throw these in here. And then what you'll see is if I put like a piece of stone in here, I can go over to the other slots and it just acts as separate inventories. And if I have, say, 4 stacks of stone, we can throw it in there and fill up one slot with 4 stacks rather than just 1 stack. So as the name suggests, this thing is going to be really handy as inventory space has been a problem, especially when we're doing exploration, and we're going to get into that here soon. So now let's get back to our electrotine processing. I think really the best option for us is going to be the tectonic initiator augment for the pulverizer, because that's going to give us 6 electrotine output from 1 ore versus 4 from a regular pulverizer, 4 here. The only other thing that gives us 6 is starlight infusion, and we don't have access to this yet. So let's craft up a pulverizer, a tectonic initiator augment, and a magma crucible. Then we'll set this up in our automation room. We'll first get down the magma crucible, and that'll push into the pulverizer with the augment. Then we'll set it up so the petroleum dust gets sent into the back of the magma crucible, and the electrotine ore gets sent into the pulverizer. And then the electrotine that's produced will get auto output into the adjacent drawer. The next step is to produce some angelic silicone crystal mixture, which is going to use some of our demon will that we've made earlier. And then we're going to need a new type of silicone. To do this, we're going to first want to get down at crafter tier 3. And we'll use this to craft sandy silicone compound with silicone blocks that we're already making and compressed sand. That'll then be sent to a smelting factory to produce silicone bulls, which will then go into a sawing factory to give us the project red silicone that we need. For that, we're going to get down 3 more alloy smelters, along with 3 energized smelters. Each of the alloy smelters is going to receive the silicone with the respective ingredient to change it into the compound. So the first one's getting electrotine, the second one's getting glowstone, and the third one's getting redstone. And then we're going to have those automatically push into the alloy smelters, which will smelt down into electrosilicone, energized silicone, and infused silicone. And now we can craft our angelic silicone crystal mixture. To start off with, we're going to need 9 of these to make 1 block. Then we also need a corallium plate, this dread-plagued gateway key that's been sitting in our inventory for a few episodes now, and a crystallized mana cluster. And this is going to come from crystallizing 3 runes of mana and then crafting it down into the cluster. Now we can craft our crystallized mana cluster, and we'll put it down over here, and eventually we will add on-demand recipes for this, but for now we're just going to throw our soul gem in and craft up Shaggorath's Raelian gateway key. Then we can use this and the Dreadlands to create a portal to the Omethal. And we're in. Looks like we spawn right next to some kind of structure. Or anything good in here? Not really. I don't know if we really need any of this stuff right now, but it may be useful. Actually, knowing this pack, it should definitely be useful. Hey, that looks like one of the things used by one of the quests. Hold on. Where were we at? Right here. Yeah, this is going to be the second quest. What is this first one? Athaxium? Which means we need to make a bound pickaxe, as it's the only thing we have right now that we can actually break Athaxium with. And I think rather than just trying to find Athaxium, which has a 0.01% chance to spawn, we can just get some Athaxium bricks, which are everywhere, and then transmute it. Hopefully we can actually vein mine this stuff, because it takes forever to break. Did I really just get a bunch of slabs? Well, I guess let's try again. We're almost there. Oh yeah, we can vein mine it. Well, there's 2 stacks. And since the only transmuter we have is being used to automate Dreadium, we're going to need to make another one. And I guess this can go right here for now. And we'll just need to give it some time to process these bricks into regular Athaxium. Then we need to come back to the Omethal and use our Staff of Rending to get some Omethal essence. Well, there's a lot of clusters here. I don't know if we'll need these, but I'm going to take them anyway. Then we can use those with some Omethal ghoul flesh to craft skin of the Omethal, which is needed to make the Omethal Necronomicon. But first we're going to need to get into some coin engraving, and that's what this little thing that we found in that dimension is for. First we're going to need to have our compactor with a numismatic press augment, and then we'll go ahead and give it a couple upgrades as well. And inside here we'll throw in some ingots of pretty much any type, and those are going to get compacted into coins from thermal, which we can then use those with some Presidium to make blank AbyssalCraft coins. And on top of that, we're going to need a blank coin engraver, which will upgrade to the Jezahar coin engraver. And now if we put both of these things inside of our engraver, we'll get Jezahar engraved coins. And we'll use all the ingredients we just gathered up to craft the Omethal Necronomicon, which is the next tier up. And that does start us back over with 0 charge, so we're going to need to go ahead and get one of these on this pedestal. While we're waiting on that to charge up, we're going to fly over to 0, in the Omethal, which is where our Omethal dungeon should be. This looks like it here. And the quest book says that up here on the 2nd floor we should find the boss. That looks like him in there. Oh my god, what is going on over there? We got teleported away. All the way back to the overworld and over 1,000 blocks from our home point. Well, we're back now. So I guess let's keep fighting this guy. He has kind of a weird hitbox. Come on, come on. 1 more hit. 2 more hits. Alright, he's dead. Let's pick up the items real quick. So, questbook said something about him exploding, so I'm gonna stay back for a minute. Alright, he exploded. Did he drop anything else? Or did I already get everything? Looks like I already got it. So what did he drop? Looks like he drops this essence of the Gatekeeper, which is used to make the next tier of AbyssalNomicon, which is our next quest. So let's see, what else do we need for this? Blocks of Athaxium, Athaxium ingots. These look a little expensive to craft. Can either go Oblivion Catalyst or Life Crystals, but I do have 2 of these in my inventory. I think these dropped from some Guardians that were nearby. I'm not really seeing any more of these guys. Maybe they only spawn while he's here. And if that's the case, we can respawn this dude fairly easily and then just pick one up and put it in a powered spawner. So let's at least give that a go. And create the ritual here. These go in the corners, and these go on the sides, and activate. All right. Well, that's the guy right there. He's the one that dropped it earlier. The dude respawned up here, but I don't know if that's necessarily needed to kill him again. We already have the essence we need. All right. Well, I went home and grabbed one. So let's get one of these guys and see if we can't powered spawner them. Oh yeah, now we're getting an influx of Athaxium and Eldritch Scales. Well, I'm not sure if we'll need any of this stuff long term, but if we do, we have it now. So let's craft up our 2 AbyssalNomicons. And then we're going to need to get this back down to charge up all the way to 100,000. And while we're waiting on that to recharge, we can prep up all these ingredients that we need to do the ritual with. We'll need 4 corrosive will crystals, 1 block of athaxium, 1 oblivion catalyst, and our first tier 2 rune, which is going to be the rune of winter. And that's going to require us to make a rune of water and a rune of earth. And the last thing we're going to need is empowered inverted potentia. So let's make a suppression core and a potency core. Then we'll throw the potency core with 4 Orbis Terra and 12 slime balls into the alloy smelter to get a potentia sphere. And the potentia sphere will go back into the alloy smelter with a suppression core and a redstone torch to give us our inverted potentia. And hopefully we don't screw this up this time. So let's give it a go. We're going to need to strike this with lightning. Then throw our sphere in. And then hit it with lightning again. And we got our inverted potentia empowered. And now the only thing we're waiting on is this AbyssalNomicon to charge. What are we at? 28,000 out of 100? Oh, we're going to be here all day. Maybe if we grab a few more of these statues from the Olmathal, we can increase that speed a little bit. You know, I really can't tell if this is charging any faster or not. Maybe we need to upgrade our energy pedestal. Let's give that a go. If it did, it's not making a significant difference. Well, this seems like about the best setup we can have at the moment. And we're up to 69,000. We're just going to take like another 30 minutes to finish charging. So let's go work on something else while we wait. One thing we can work on is upgrading our mana production. And to do that, we're going to make some mana lenses. So we're going to need 2.5 stacks of mana steel. And a decent amount of mana glass. I don't have an exact number. Then we can craft up 20 mana lenses. 10 of these are going to be made into velocity, and 10 of them are going to be made into potency. In order to make those, we're going to need some of these tier 1 runes. Now we can use our 10 air runes to make 10 velocity, and our 10 fire runes to make 10 potency. Then we can combine those together with a slime ball in our crafting grid to get velocity and potency. And then finally we'll add these to each of our mana spreaders, and that should greatly increase our mana generation as well as our runic altar crafting speed. And one more thing I want to do before we go check on our AbyssalNomicon charging speed is add 2 more mana pools, and we're going to point our mana spreaders at these. That way when we do finally go to make some Terra steel, we'll have enough mana buffer built up that we can make a decent amount. So let's see, what are we at now? 89,000? Oh, we're getting pretty close. Come on. We're almost there. Yes. Let's go. We got it fully charged. And let's go ahead and drop this other one in here to charge up. Then we're going to head back to the Olmathal. And the quest says to drop into the void. Oh yeah, we're in. So this is the very last dimension. And there's not really a whole lot to do here except to set up another altar. Then we'll put in all of the ingredients that we crafted up before and activate this to do the very last boss fight. Oh, spawned the boss and gave us blindness. And guess you can't counter that with night vision. Oh, but this boss is so much easier than the last one. He's gonna be dead in like no time. I don't see his sword having dropped anywhere. Does it drop now? Yeah, we got the Sakthos Soul Reaper Blade. Now, when we use this to kill mobs, which it does a lot of damage, so it makes it easy, but you'll get souls harvested in here. So I'm wondering if we can kind of cheese this like we did with the sentient blade or sentient sword in order to get souls harvested. Does that work? It does not. What about putting it inside a mechanical user? Oh yeah, that is increasing the souls harvested. So we'll let that run for a little while. And while we're waiting, we're going to go ahead and do this easy craft. We need a couple of these Olmathal souls. And then we can make the soul extractor. And then when we throw both of these in the crafting grid together, we get souls of the dark realm. And I wonder if we can put these in the item repair to repair it. Looks like we can with this one. Let's test out the soul extractor real quick. Okay, yep, it works with both. Perfect. Now we need these to make a couple different things, but first we're going to have to do a couple prerequisite automations and crafts. So first we're going to need to craft up a second Crystallizer. Then over here we're going to leave a little bit of space for more blood infuser automations. And then right here, we're going to set up our crystallizer automations. So we're going to get down 2 crystallizers. Into the back of both of these, we'll send blaze rods. Then one of them will get water buckets. And actually, I want to move these up a block because some of these can give 2 outputs. So then the one with the water buckets is going to give us crystallized hydrogen and oxygen, which we're going to filter into the drawer as like the final tier. That way we can have the clusters when needed. Then we're going to have the empty buckets pull out the top on the white channel and get sent back into the ME interface. And we'll have the output items get pulled out of the bottom on the black channel and sent into this storage controller. And that's going to have a storage bus on it. And that completes our automation for hydrogen and oxygen. The next crystallizer will send coal in from the top, and that'll give us crystallized carbon. Then we'll bring the crystallized hydrogen and carbon back over to this tier 3 crafter, which we're then going to craft down into crystallized methane. And we'll send that back into the crafter to make crystallized methane clusters. Then those will need to get sent over into a transmutator, along with blaze rods to give us methane. And that completes the automation we're going to do over here for now. And then we need to craft up one of each of the tier 2 runes. Now with all the things that we just automated and crafted, we can craft up some sparks and a terrestrial agglomeration plate. Now we're going to set up the multi-block to make Terra steel. This is pretty simple. You need 5 blocks of living rock and then 4 blocks of lapis, and the terrestrial agglomeration plate goes in the middle. Then on top of that, we can throw some sparks, or a spark, and then we'll put one on top of a mana pool as well. And when we give this a mana diamond, a mana pearl, and a mana steel, it's going to slowly craft up and make us a Terra steel. But we need 4 to complete the quest, so let's keep crafting these up. And the quest gives us 2 more as a reward, so let's go ahead and claim those. And we're going to go ahead and pick up this multi-block for now, so that we can direct our mana over here to these mana pools. But it seems we're slightly out of range of this mana spreader. You can see it's not linking when I click on it. So what we're going to have to do is make another mana pool and put it as like a midway point. Maybe like right here. Let's see if that connects. Oh yeah, now we're connected up. Then we'll get down 2 more mana spreaders and point these at each of these mana pools. Well, that's very slowly going to fill these up. And we need about a half a mana pool each. So we're going to go craft some other stuff while we wait on this. So first we're going to craft up 12 glimmering living wood. Then we'll use 4 of those with another Terra steel ingot to make an elven gateway core. And we'll claim 6 crystallized mana from this quest so that we can make 2 mana pylons. Then we're going to need to upgrade these to Natura pylons. And I guess I need more Terra steel nuggets. I'm short 1 Terra steel. And it's because I made 1 too many glimmering living wood. So I guess let's make 1 more. There we go. Now we should be able to make our second Natura pylon. And now we can start working on setting up our portal to the Alf. And that's actually what I had these mana pools here for. But clearly we don't have enough mana just yet. But this is basically how it goes. You just have regular living wood on the sides. And then you have glimmering living wood on these 3. And then the elven gateway core down here in the bottom middle. And then finally you got to put down the nature pylons on top of the mana pools. And now we have everything that we need to activate this except for half a mana pool in each of these. So let's separate this out into 2 separate streams of mana. That should speed it up just a little bit. So this one will go here, then it'll link there, and then this one will link here. And then to speed this up a little bit more, we can add potency and velocity lenses as well. After giving this a little bit of time, this should be enough mana to activate this thing, so let's give it a go. Oh, yep, we're activated. It drained our mana pools a decent amount, but we still have enough left to craft with a little bit. So let's throw in everything we need to get one of each of these items for the quest. That's going to be a living matter, a living wood, a mana glass, a mana diamond, a mana pearl, and 2 mana steel. And completing that quest opens up quite a few directions that we can go. So let's start off by crafting some spark augments so we can more easily control the flow of our mana through sparks. First, we're going to want a recessive spark augment, and we're also going to want a few more sparks. So let's claim this methane from this quest and then craft up as many as we can. Apparently it's only 3 right now. Then we're going to place 9 mana pools down over here. And the middle one for now is the only one that's going to get a spark, but later on all of these will have sparks on it. And essentially what this is going to do is allow us to create a mana battery here. This is where all of our mana will be stored. and then we can send it off to other places as needed. So with all of these mana pools here, when we put this recessive spark augment here, it's going to start sending mana from there to this middle mana pool. And you'll notice these sparks are much faster than using something like a mana spreader. Then we can craft up 2 dominant spark augments. And I don't think this is going to allow us to place the augments while these pylons are here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So we're going to have to break these and shut off our portal for a minute, but that'll be all right. So we'll place down our spark augments here, and then we can place the portals back down. And so basically what that's going to do is it's going to pull from this mana pool because this one doesn't have an augment on it. So the recessive is going to push and the dominant is going to pull. So at this point, we're kind of waiting on our methane production in order to make any more sparks. And once we have more sparks, we can start automating a lot of this Botania stuff. But for now, let's make a couple more Terra steel. And with that, we can finally craft our Inferium Infusion Crystal so that we can start getting into Tier 2 Mystical Agriculture, which we've been waiting several episodes for. Here it is. So at this point, the only thing this thing can really do is upgrade our Inferium into Prudentium. So let's just go ahead and craft all of it. Let's see, can we repair this thing? Oh, we can. We don't have to make any more of them. We can just throw them in here and repair them. That's pretty nice. Well, let's leave that there for now and start crafting up all the seeds we need. So we already have our wood seeds and our ice seeds crafted up from another episode. So now we're going to need to make some nature clusters in the Hellfire Forge, which we can then use to make our nature seeds. Then we need to make some dirt seeds. And that's all the tier 1 seeds we need. So now we need to make some tier 2 crafting seeds in the Runic altar. For that we're going to need 8 Prudentium essence and 1 tier 1 crafting seed. Then with one of these seeds, 4 Prudentium essence, and 4 of these crystallized potassium clusters that I farmed up from the Omethal, we can craft up our saltpeter seeds. And we're going to need 9 of these in total. Then the other tier 2 seed that we're going to need 9 of is going to use the same recipe, except incendium instead of potassium. And there's a few more things we're going to need to prep up. Firstly, we're going to need some Terran soil to plant the crop stone for increased yield, 6 plant gatherers, a tier 1 range add-on for each one, a tier 1 and 2 speed upgrade for each one, a tier 1 energy upgrade for each one, a power cell for each one, and finally some greenhouse glass. But I'm not sure how much of this we're going to need exactly, so I'm just going to set a recipe for it, and then we'll craft it as needed. That should be everything we need to get this system built. So we're going to hop over into the Eden, where it's always daytime, so that we get the 100% effectiveness from the greenhouse glass. And now somewhere over here, kind of off to the side, we're going to build 9 3x3 platforms. Alright, and after a couple of rebuilds, this is what we got. I did go ahead and fill out an entire chunk with farm plots, even though we actually only needed 6. And I believe I said 9 earlier, but it's only 6 that we need, at least for right now. So the way that this works is the crops are planted here by these plant sowers down below. I actually went back and crafted those. I didn't think we were going to need them because these don't drop any extra seeds, so I thought that the plant gatherer would just harvest it without breaking the crop. But that's just not how it worked. I also thought that this greenhouse glass would cause more crop speed growth the higher you went with it. But all you really need is 1, and then each time the crop grows, it'll grow fully. So if you pair this greenhouse glass with something like a hydrator to cause the crops to grow more frequently, this farm could be extremely fast. But for right now, this is going to be plenty fast enough for our needs. You can see we already have, well, now we do have over a stack of each essence. And we're also getting fertilized essence from this. And this thing will just keep running in the background and filling up these drawers. The items are just pulled out with item conduits and sent to this drawer system. And then the seeds are filtered back into the plant sowers. So the only thing left to do now is to connect this up to the ME system. And for that, we're going to use the quantum link chamber. So let's go ahead and encode recipes for all of these things. We'll need 2 quantum link chambers, request, and then 16 quantum rings, we'll request those as well. And then to be able to make this work, there's one other thing we're going to need to make. In order to get that, we're going to need a matter condenser. And this is really just going to be a temporary setup, so we can put this here for now. And then connected or I guess above it for right now, is going to be the unending bowl. And we're going to connect that up with integrated dynamics. So we'll go an interface on the unending bowl and then an exporter on the condenser. Connect that up with a cable. Then inside the matter condenser, we're going to set it to condense into singularities. And maybe this can't use fluids anymore. If not, we'll use items, but you could use fluids for this. But we're also going to need a cell. So we'll encode recipes for a 64K ME storage component. All right, so we got our 64K inside. Let's go ahead and put this variable card in here to see if that works. It does. Now you can see this is going up pretty slow, but with integrated dynamics, we should be able to come in here and let's actually do 9s. We can take this all the way up to 9999, and that's still going kind of slow. So let's try a couple of fluid laser relays instead. We need to link these up with a laser wrench. Okay, yep, there we go. So you just have to take a compass and set this one to only out of adjacent blocks and this one to only into adjacent blocks. And you can see we've maxed out 64 singularities in literally no time. So we'll take those. I wonder if this will work. Let's give it a go. So we'll toss our singularity on the ground like that. And then we'll toss a piece of ender dust with it. And then we need to blow it up, which will give us 2 quantum entangled singularities. Then we can set this up right over here where I just set up a brand new P2P. We're only going to be using one of these channels at the moment. So, I mean, kind of unnecessary, but we can branch this off to other ones in the future. So when you put them all together like that, it's going to form the multi-block. Then right inside goes the quantum entangled singularity. Then back over here in the Eden, where we have our farm set up, we're going to set up the other side. And I did forget to mention that I added a dread lamp and a mega torch to prevent all spawns over here. That's just going to make it a little bit nicer when we're having to work on our farms and stuff. We don't have to deal with mobs. So we'll build the second one, put the paired entangled singularity in here, and then we can branch our cables off all the way over to our storage and give it a storage bus, set it to high priority, and then give this a minute for the channel to connect. All right, so I came back to the base and I was looking through and I wasn't seeing the item, so I decided to go check the quest. And in this version of AE2, both sides need to be powered. So let's get an energy acceptor and a power cell down over here. And now at this point, we should be able to go back and access our items. Yep, there we go. We can access all of our essences from our base now. And at this point, the only thing left to do is to craft all of the items that we still needed to automate. So we can start off by making aerogel in this crafter. Then we'll get down 3 more crafter tier 2s. The first one will be used to make cocoa beans, melons, lily pads, and tigerwood saplings. The next one will be used to make packed ice, maple, eucalyptus, and hopseed saplings. And the last one will be used to make coarse dirt, willow, and silverbell saplings. And then we'll have 1 slot left over to craft with. And that now means that 99.99% of all the stuff that we have over here is now fully automated with nothing left. I think the only thing that we still have to automate here is arboreal essence. And we're lacking the hardened blood droplet automation for this, but then we can set up our pyre and do that automatically as well. Well, that should be enough stuff over there fully automated so that we can comfortably move on with Botania automations. So let's see how many sparks we can make now. 11? That's not too bad. So the first thing for Botania we're going to want to automate is each of these mana pool items. And for the most part, we have all the prerequisites for these things already automated. There's a few that we're still going to have to autocraft though. The photovoltaic composite we'll do in the last lot of this crafter we had down before. Then we'll get down another crafter tier 2 to make the fluix pearls and golden string. Then we'll make a few more dominant spark augments just to have on hand. Now we're going to set down a mana pool with a spark and a dominant augment. Behind that, we'll get down 7 precision droppers, and we can expand this vertically as needed. Then each of these precision droppers is going to receive a conduit, an item conduit, and a redstone conduit for that matter. Then each of the redstone conduits is going to receive a not filter. This will basically keep this turned off unless the redstone conduit receives a redstone signal. And each of the item conduits is going to receive a limited item filter, filtered for one item, or one of each input item. So that one's going to be gold string. Then the next one will be hyper diamonds, and so on. And honestly, with the way I might have this set up, we can honestly raise this to about 16. Then we'll use an interface to supply the input items and ME level emitters so that we can regulate the output items. And for now, we'll set each of these level emitters to 128, which will be 2 stacks. Then we'll get down a range collector, and we're going to filter that for all of the output items. And we'll have that pipe out with an item conduit into a drawer controller. And outside of cleaning this up a little bit, this setup should be complete. We should just need to come in here and turn the extract on. And we should see items starting to get dropped, converted, and then filling into these drawers. So I went ahead and cleaned this up, and you can see it's not dropping items anymore. And that's because each one reached the threshold. So we're good to go. Now, one thing I hadn't considered is we may need mana steel blocks and mana diamond blocks. So we're just going to replace these with compacting drawers real quick. That's better. Now, with that out of the way, I want to start working on automating all of the tier 1 and 2 runes. And to do that, we're going to need to get down 2 more crafter tier 2s. We're going to skip these for now because this is going to be using some of these blood orbs. The second one will go right here. For the first crafter, we're going to send in all of these ingredients. And then we're going to have these recipes set to XC, which will keep the blood orb in the internal buffer. And that's going to craft us aquatic cores, fire cores, earthen cores, and gusty cores. Then in the second one, we're going to send in all of these ingredients to craft environmental cores, power cores, icy cores, and tempest cores. Which brings us to a point where we have these things automated, but we're waiting on our prerequisite buffers to fill back up. Like up here, we are running out of these tier 1 essences just because we only had the stack limit at 1. And so now it's going back through to craft them. And so I'll probably go through and raise some of these buffers because at this point we have these things automated. Before we didn't have lily pads automated, so it would have made it hard to increase that buffer. Also, we didn't have aerogel, but now everything should be automated, so we should be good. Alright, so while we wait, we're going to work on crafting up our runic altars. First, we need to request 17 incense altars, which makes a total of 18 when you include the one we had before. Then we need a stack and 44 living rock, 36 living matter, and 27 earthen cores to make 9 runic altars. We'll also need a mana pool for each one, a mana spreader for each one, 2 mechanical users for each one, a spark for each one, a dominant augment for each spark, an impulse hopper for each one, and a wand of the forest for each one. And I think that should be everything. Alright, now this setup may get a little complicated because I've never actually set one of these up before. But basically, we're going to have a mana pool with a mana spreader on top of it. And that's going to be pointing into the runic altar. Next to the runic altar, we're going to have 2 mechanical users. So we're actually going to need to build up a few blocks here. So we'll have one there, and the other one can go here. So we can have them both facing into it. And one of these mechanical users, we're going to have a wand of the forest, and it's going to activate block with item, I believe. Then for the other one, we're going to have an impulse hopper below it, which will automatically push out the top. Then we're going to fill in each of these slots. Hold on, let me grab some dirt. And in each of these slots, except for the top left. So here's what it's going to do. We're going to set this to upper left slot only. So that way, when the impulse hopper pushes these items out in order, it's going to activate the runic altar in order. And this one can be upper left slot only too, but it doesn't matter as much. Then we need to bring over items with an interface and start filtering. All right, so actually there's going to be a couple changes we're going to make to this system. One, we're not going to have these push. We'll actually have some conduits pull from them and put into the mechanical users. And then also we're going to have these set to redstone mode low. And we're going to set it up similarly to what we did over there with some level emitters to turn these on. All right, I think this should be the full setup for all of the tier 1 runes. I have changed it around a little bit, moved it around just so everything could be facing this way. So when you walk out here, you see it. And it's still going to need to be cleaned up a little bit. But I think the only thing left to do is to come over here and turn the extract on these. And it should start working any second now. Well, the rune of water has started working. but I can see that multiple living rock is being dropped on here, and that may cause an issue. And after watching this water rune for a good little bit of time, I think the problem is the extract with the Ender IO conduits. They're just a little bit too fast, or maybe they don't always pull from the first slot every time. And the impulse hoppers will push from the first slot, so we're going to have to use the push feature instead of conduits. And after setting that up, everything appears to be working properly. So I'll just remove the insert and extract on the conduits, and we're just using the push feature, which, I mean, it really should be fast enough since it's on passive, and we can always come over here and increase the buffers if we want to. And at this point, the biggest problem is mana. Since we've turned this on, it wants to drop everything over here to craft up everything we need for this. And the problem with that is this mana pool runs out very quick, especially when making blocks of mana diamonds that we need for these runes of mana up here. So it's going to be a little bit of an issue, but for now I just disabled the extract on the conduit, and later we can add that back once these buffers fill up, and we'll probably end up making a bigger battery as well. But at this point, it's mostly just a waiting game. So I'm going to clean this area up and then build up the second tower, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Alright, this is what we got so far. It is starting to come together, but we're having too many issues with mana running out, and then some of our buffers over there are running out, crafting cores. So this is just going to be a very slow process in order to get all of these buffers filled up. You can see we already got the water runes and fire runes filled. And then mana's the next closest one. These two haven't crafted hardly any. So, I mean, it's just going to be a matter of time. So with that being said, there's a couple other things that I want to get done before we end off this episode. One, I want to get the wireless terminal, or the wireless crafting terminal, that is. And then I also want to work down here to the automatable Fey crafter, so that we can finish all of our automations for the prerequisite crafts for those. And that should help speed us along a little bit. The first part of the crafting terminal is easy, and it's a quest in and of itself, the wireless terminal. And the only other thing we need to finish crafting this thing is a Master Corporea spark. And this is honestly pretty easy. We just need to do a couple more Botania crafts. We need one more pixie dust, then we can make our Corporea spark. Following that, we need 4 blocks of mana diamonds, which will then craft into 4 blocks of dragonstone. And now we can make our master, I'm done saying that word, master spark, and our wireless crafting terminal. And there's a couple other things we're going to need to get this set up. First, we're going to need to set some recipes for a wireless access point. And we're also going to need an ME security terminal. And while we're here crafting stuff, we might as well go ahead and make the wireless pattern terminal and the wireless fluid terminal to complete the quest. And as a quest reward for this, we get 32 wireless boosters. So let's go ahead and claim that. Now to start setting this thing up, we're going to need to get our wireless access point down. And inside of that, we can put our boosters. That's going to boost the range significantly, but also significantly increase our power draw. And now you'll notice when we click this thing, it says device is not linked. To fix that, we need to put down the security terminal. And inside, we can throw our wireless terminal to link it. And now we should be able to access our ME system from wireless. And those boosters do such a good job that we can access it from beyond the outside edges of our base, way up in the sky. And in order to really make full use of this thing, we can put it in a bauble slot and set up a keybind to access it without having to have it in our hand. So now pretty much anywhere we want to go, we can just press our keybind and open up our wireless crafting terminal. With that out of the way, let's start working down this branch of the quest book. To start off with, we're going to want to batch up some Mirian ingots, which is going to come from Elementium, Terra Steel, Mana Steel, Cobalt, and Glass in the smeltery. Then we'll throw some Mana Quartz into a smelting factory to get Smoky Quartz, which will be alloyed with our Mirian and some Ender Alloy Advanced to get Modularium. And that'll go into the Fey Crafter with a Fey Crafter, 2 Runic Dust to give us our Runic Crafter, which is an automatable Fey Crafter. And we're going to use this to automate Elemental Soil, but first we're going to need to automate Terra Moss and Petals. We're going to do our petal automation right here. So first we're going to need a mechanical user facing down, and then we're also going to need one facing up. And right in between those, we'll get down our mortar. Both of these will be set to activate block with item and redstone on. Then the top one will get a pestle, and we're going to run some redstone conduit from the mortar up to the top mechanical user. And we're going to need to connect that with our crescent hammer. Then on the input side, we're going to need a redstone sensor filter, and then we'll have output here. That way this top mechanical user will only activate whenever there's flowers inside of this one. And actually this bottom one, we're going to want on redstone off with a not filter inside of this output. And that input is going to be from a level emitter, which is going to be set for petals. And we'll set this around 256. And redstone mode will be emit when levels are below limit. Now the only thing left to do is to filter peonies into the bottom mechanical user, clean up the area, and then test to make sure it works. So we're going to need to take a few stacks out of here. And you can see it's working, slowly filling up this drawer. Then we'll get down a crushing factory filtered for cactus, which will give us biofuel. We'll then send that biofuel into an infusing factory with cobblestone to get moss stone. Then we want to set a recipe in this crafter to make diamond knives. And we'll send those diamond knives to a mechanical user and the moss stone to a block placer. Actually, this needs to be flipped around. And I guess we'll also need a world block importer with an interface on a trash can. And then we'll filter that for cobblestone. And now our automation's complete. Now we can work on automating our Runic crafter. And the quest book says that there needs to be grove supplication nearby. So let's set this off. Then we'll need an inventory below it with all the items for the craft. We'll use an interface. And behind it, we're going to have a mechanical user. And we're going to supply that with the knives as well. Then it says we need to right click it with the item we want to output to set the recipe. And so now let's test this out. If we take a stack out of here, yep, it's crafting. And then once it reaches the threshold, it's going to stop. And now we need to automate it being turned into salic, aqueous, and magmatic soil, which is pretty easy. And we can set up the magmatic and aqueous soil here in the base. I did have to add a timer on a trapdoor to regulate the magmatic, because what would happen is it would bounce off the lava over and over again, and then it wouldn't get picked up by the range collector. So that trapdoor just kind of opens, lets it change, and then it gets trapped on top of it for a second so that the range collector can actually pick it up. But these two setups are working great. We have a stack of each in here. As for the salic, I think I'm going to try to figure out some way to regulate this with an ender chest. So here's what I'm thinking. We have an export bus with a redstone card in it set to active with signal, and then a level emitter to tell that export bus when to activate. So then that will send the soil into the ender chest, and then that'll get sent up here and get pulled out into this precision dropper, automatically dropped on the ground and converted, then picked up by the range collector and sent back into the ender chest and be filtered into this drawer. So I guess all that's left to do now is to filter the export bus and watch and make sure this thing works properly. So we are sending elemental soil in here. I'll go ahead and throw that last one in there. We're getting the salic soil back, and it's filling this drawer up. It is going to take a minute for this buffer to fill since it's being used to craft something else currently, but it looks like we should be good to go. And it appears that while we were working on all of that stuff, all of our tier 1 runes have maxed out their buffers, as well as our mana battery. So I guess let's filter these in and get these started crafting. Alright, we're all set up, and I think this is an excellent place to end the episode. We got a ton of stuff done today. Really happy with how it turned out, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, make sure to drop down and leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.